Alright everyone, how are we all doing? Welcome as we continue this meander through the week towards Celtic's second competitive game of the season. Looking forward to it. Some stuff to chat about today first. And we begin with a very nice look at the Premiership League table, now that every club has played a match. And shock horror, we are sitting pretty at the top. Well done to Aberdeen, who joined us and St Mirren in the winners' enclosure after their 2-1 victory away to St Johnstone yesterday. Next up for us is a trip to 11th placed Hibernian on Sunday. Right, a few things I want to chat about today. A little bit of a transfer update. Matt O'Reilly talk still dominating proceedings, it's fair to say. Sky Sports reporting yesterday that Brighton are in talks with us over signing O'Reilly. I should say there's also been conflicting reports from Scottish outlets saying that that may not be the case, so I don't think we should take it as gospel, but clearly the reporting from Sky is that Brighton are the latest team to enter the race for Matt O'Reilly. Chelsea were linked a few days ago. We've also had Atalanta, who we know have bid 3 times, I think, nowhere near our valuation. Who else? Southampton. Go further back, you can have Inter Milan, Atletico Madrid. Probably half of Europe at this stage has been linked with Matt O'Reilly, but I think the situation is very, very simple. And the reason I try not to spend too long on it is that it's very simple. Celtic have a fee we want for Matt O'Reilly. It's around £25 million, possibly up to somewhere near 30. Until another club offers that amount, Matt O'Reilly won't be going anywhere. There was a mention yesterday of Brighton teenage midfielder Facundo Buonanotte, who I feel like is a kind of name I've heard in Match of the Day, possibly. This tweet from Brighton Bubble was reporting what has been said by a Dutch reporter, Mikos Gauka. It reads, Facundo Buonanotte to Feyenoord is off. Buonanotte is expected to stay in the UK with Southampton and Celtic interested in him. After trawling the internet for precisely, 45 seconds, I did come across a few mentions of Buonanotte and Celtic. He's an Argentina international, as I say, mentions of us, mentions of Southampton as well, who need to keep their distance at this stage. They're just following us about like a bad smell this summer. But they're said to be like the kind of the favourites for Buonanotte at this stage. We don't really even know if the Celtic link is credible. We've also had Daniel Gazdag, Shea Charles of Southampton, and Tanner Tessman mentioned as potential O'Reilly replacements last week. It's pretty obvious that the club should have some sort of contingency plan in place for if and possibly when Matt O'Reilly leaves. I think the big fear of certainly me and probably a lot of you as well is that we get to like the last couple of days, maybe even the last day of the transfer window, and then boom, in comes an offer of 25 million or more for Matt O'Reilly. The club say, look, what are we meant to do, guys? We have to let him go for that price. They sell him, and then we either don't get a replacement in, or the replacement is really rushed and not particularly exciting. And I realise that there's challenges for Celtic in this whole Matt O'Reilly situation. We basically are just waiting for another club to come and pay what he's worth, and it's going to happen at some stage. The big question is whether it happens in this window or not. But I also think there's a big opportunity for the club there. If and when Matt O'Reilly eventually leaves us, he's going to net us a hell of a lot of money. It's probably going to be a Scottish record transfer fee, somewhere close to £30 million. We're going to have money to find a replacement for O'Reilly, and I think we really have to go big on a replacement for O'Reilly because he's going to be a very hard player to replace. And I would be looking for the club to certainly go near our transfer record fee paid out, which I think is £9 million for Odsonne Edouard. I'd be looking for us to go very close to that if not break it, for Matt O'Reilly's replacement. I think that's what has to happen at the club. As I say, it's a tricky situation for us all. The good thing at the moment is O'Reilly's absolutely doing it for us, and I'm just hoping that we can get to see a full season of this Matt O'Reilly at this level next to Rio Hatate, possibly at that level, and Callum McGregor, who's always at that level, together. I think those three, said last night on the Celtic Way, for me that's the best midfield three, the one we've got at the moment, the one we saw at the weekend, the best midfield three I've seen at Celtic since the Martin O'Neill days, when you were probably looking at Petrov, Thompson, Lennon, Lambert, something like that. I think we've had some good midfielders since then, but in terms of the quality of those three players, you know, Matt O'Reilly, £30 million player, Rio Hatate, probably not there right now, but if he has a good season, I think we all feel he's of that level, and Callum McGregor, we all know what level he plays at. I would love to see a full season of that midfield three together. It's almost cruel that they're teasing us with it on Sunday. We might not see it for too much longer. But Celtic need to approach this the right way, and if O'Reilly moves on, we need to replace him well. Yeah, that's going to rumble on in terms of actual incomings that aren't incomings just to replace players. It's as you were. The Adam Idah stuff continues at breakneck speed, you've got to say. It's just development after development there. I'm still confident we're going to sign Adam Idah this summer. I don't know how you're all feeling. I know a few people have kind of not thrown the towel in, but they're saying, you know, this is taking too long, we move on to someone else. And like, I totally understand that. For me, Adam Idah should have been signed by now. I am confident it's going to be done by the end of the window, but Brendan Rodgers literally said he wanted Adam Idah back in late May. Transfer should have been completed by now. I don't think it's a great look that the club have allowed this to drag on and drag on. I don't care that stuff's going on at Norwich and he's a Norwich player and their manager wants to take a look at him. Brendan Rodgers wants him. The club should have had Idah in by now. As I say, I'm confident still that it will be done by the end of the window. The trail has gone cold at the moment on a centre-back, a left-back, a winger, probably a left winger. I think the feeling at the moment is the priorities are left-back and centre-back in terms of like the first team. That's been well documented, Champions League, etc. The winger is an interesting one because maybe on the face of it at the moment, with the way James Forrest and Nicholas Kuhn played at the weekend and Dyson Maeda is to come back and Lewis Palmer's looked all right in pre-season, maybe the argument is, do we necessarily need a winger? I would still want that bit of stardust. I don't know if any of the wingers we have at the moment are a Jota, for example. Nicholas Kuhn potentially is a Jota in the making if he can keep up the kind of levels he's shown so far this season, but there's still a long way to go, and I'd be looking for a quality addition on the wing. So it's very simple for me. Don't know how many times I need to say it. You're probably bored by now. First choice centre back, first choice left back, left winger, Adam Idah. Happy with those four if that's all the business we do. If Matt O'Reilly leaves, we need to go big on a replacement for him. 3.5 weeks to go, everyone, to get that quality in that Brendan Rodgers craves. If we don't manage that, there is going to be one hell of a lot of unhappiness amongst the Celtic support. As I say, there's so much potential in this team. I can't put into words how excited I am to watch this team this season. I'm already looking forward to Sunday against Hibs to see what we can produce. But it's going to be such a letdown if we don't get in the quality we need. I believe people will probably forgive the board how long it's taken to get players in if we have a really good window and significantly strengthen the team. If we don't manage that, as I say, there's going to be so much unhappiness shown towards the board and not towards Brendan Rodgers. It's going to be towards the board, which is probably different from a year ago, maybe, because Brendan Rodgers, I know is in a much stronger place now than he was a year ago. And all of that kind of unhappiness towards the board, I think, feeds into the second thing that I wanted to talk about today, and it all comes from the club announcing ticket details for Not this weekend's game against Hibernian, but the following weekend's one at Celtic Park in the Premier Sports Cup last 16. The club announced yesterday that tickets were on sale for this match to season ticket holders, with adults priced at £25, concessions £17, and under 13s fittingly at £12. While this is a lower price than a league game would be against Hibernian, there seems to be a fair bit of, I would say, justifiable frustration that the game hasn't just been given free of charge to season ticket holders as part of the season ticket. Now, you remember through the years, it's become a bit of a custom for the club to give a couple of matches free to season ticket holders. It's a bit of a perk for buying your season ticket. You'd get a European qualifier free of charge, the first one, and you would also get a home friendly match free of charge as part of your season ticket. Now, neither of those took place this year. We didn't have a European qualifier, any European qualifiers. We didn't have any home friendly matches, and it's led to tweets like this from Tam Selleck on X, saying, "The monetary value of the season ticket has been eroded. No longer includes qualifiers or friendlies. £25 for the first cup game, and with 30,000 people on a closed waiting list, there's no motivation to look after the punters." Now, adult season tickets started at £579 for this season. That's the price you pay for 19 home Premiership matches, and it works out at around £30 per match. I believe single general sale tickets are around £35 for most Celtic League home games. It differs slightly depending on the opponent and also the section of the stadium you're buying for. So there's not really much of a financial difference between forking out for the 19 home games as part of a season ticket and if you were able to find a way to get the general sale tickets for all 19 matches one by one. I guess the perks of the season ticket are still that you get access, guaranteed access to all of our home games and the chance to get ones for the Cup and the Champions League, etc. But I think we've just arrived at a point now where Celtic have such a demand for match tickets and season tickets. There's said to be thousands and thousands on the waiting list. I'm not sure if that tweet was making reference to there being 30,000 on the waiting list. That number seems a bit high for me, but I don't know, maybe that is the case. But I think Celtic have arrived at a point where they know that if you're not happy with your season ticket and you're not wanting to take your season ticket next year or going forward, they know that someone else will. And I think that Celtic have almost arrived at a point where their thinking is, and to be honest, it's been like this for a number of years, can we get away with doing this rather than is this the right thing to do to our faithful Celtic support? And for me, like, people may think it's a small thing, but I think given that game next weekend against Hibs in the League Cup, free of charge to season ticket holders, was just like an obvious thing to do. Sure, they'd have lost out on like a bit of money, but in the grand scheme of things, I think the goodwill that would have brought about, given that we had no home friendlies, given that we have no European qualifiers at the moment, given the unwavering support the club of the fans have given the club in all the time, but especially in recent years, including the COVID season, which isn't spoken about enough. I just think that was a no-brainer for the club to do. And it just kind of, the fact they haven't done that and they're again just asking for more money while not necessarily spending any real money in the transfer window, it just creates this friction between the support and those in power at the club that we just don't need. The support are so behind the team. We're loving what we're watching at the moment, but it creates that friction with transfers and means that the board have little to no goodwill built up. There's no real trust there. And I think that's part of why we all feel so frustrated with transfers and the lack of transfers so far this summer. It's nothing against the team or Brendan Rodgers, and other fans of other teams wouldn't really understand it, but I think as Celtic fans, the ambition that we have for the club and how we want to be measured in Europe, we quite often don't feel like that's matched at all by the board. And not only that, the board seem to be having like little or no time for us. They just kind of view the Celtic support as a way to make money, which doesn't make you feel wholly positive, to be honest. But that's just some thoughts on it. How does it change? I don't really know. It probably changes when we hit some sort of downturn in our fortunes, hopefully in many, many years' time. And we maybe don't win trophies for a bit and the demand isn't there to the same extent. The sad fact, and it's generally a positive thing because we're all feeling it, is that there's such a demand and a thirst for Celtic right now that, as I say, the board know that if you're not happy with what they're offering, someone else behind you will take your spot gladly. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I guess things could be a lot worse though. You could be, 8th in the Scottish Premiership table. Yeah, maybe I've just done what the board do and I've just brought Rangers into it to make us all feel a bit better. Listen, things are really good. Things are good. I'm buzzing for this weekend. I think we've got a great team to look forward to watching this season. We need that quality in, and if we don't get that quality in, all of these things I've spoken about are going to be on people's minds, and the reaction isn't going to be very positive towards those in power. So yeah, I guess the pressure is on them to deliver.